Hey, welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What is going on, everybody out there? Okay, give a shout where you guys are tuning in from. Today is an epic show. Why? Because we saw history in the making. We have a president that was convicted of nothing,
No
and
one
it's
knows
gonna
the
have
crime.
no nobody knows
Accounting error,
exactly
Jeff.
what the crime is. It was an accounting error, it's the craziest thing that we've seen in our country in the history. It's going to have far-reaching ramification, both good and bad. The good is that it has galvanized the support of freedom seekers all over the country. I think we're going to see ramification of that event all over the world. It's also very dangerous because we saw the politicalization or the weaponization of the political infrastructure. It's not just the politics of it, it's also the economics of it. We have a party that has come out to be extremely antagonistic and anti-crypto, right up to the point that the SAB 21 Act was vetoed, kind of as expected, by the president in the White House. Went through the congressional channels and gets vetoed. We see the sitting senator of Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren, who is the kingpin of anti-crypto sentiment. You know who's positive and pro-crypto is Donald Trump. President Trump is pro-crypto, pro-freedom, pro-constitution, and that is what is critical for the betterment of this country. So Bitcoin, XRP, regardless of the digital asset that you're passionate for, just remember 2024 big win. Democrats lose again. That's the narrative of today's show. So, Chip, if you're ready to kick this thing off,
Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Drop where you're coming in from. Look at this, crypto wealth, and I am home. Well, that's good news. You are home. You are back on your computer. We are back on our one viewer on Twitch. We are back to reality. Can't wait to Twitch, baby. Crypto wealth's got it rocket. Let's go.
Savannah.
What's up?
Everyone give a
Brown
quick
in
shout out.
Savannah? I love
Shout
Savannah.
out.
Savannah's an awesome. There's so much history in Savannah. My God, it's fantastic. It really
It
is.
looks like X might be working. We got YouTube people piling in. We need more people.
We had some
piling in
issues
on
with it,
YouTube.
right? We had some issues with it.
There was some issues. It wasn't going to work, but it
API
looks
wasn't
like
connecting.
got our viewers starting to pile in.
Mark,
More viewers always over on X, but you know that's a good thing. That's where the freedom
Pittsburgh,
seems to
PA.
be.
What's up? Love Pittsburgh. Love the bird. How yin's doing with your gum bands? There you go. All right, listen. Let's jump this puppy off.
Hong Kong, Tokyo.
Yins. It's the only place they call it. How yin's doing? That's the Pittsburgh speak right there.
Good morning from Iran. There you go, Hormuz. Tuning in.
Let's check this out here. I wanted to just start off
on start with.
Well, I think we're going to start here talking about Garland. So I saw this post right here. The Biden campaign ramps up crypto industry outreach in surprising tone shift. Now, what Jeff and I have noticed is this: a lot of people who particularly lean on the left side, as soon as Trump came out and said, "A vote for Trump is a vote for, protect your Bitcoin, protect your keys, self-custody, all that," all of a sudden everybody was like, well, Biden's going to do that. Well, the administration's going to do that. Well, the Democrats are softening their tone. Well, the Democrats are voting for stuff. By the way, the SAB 121, right, that limited the power of Gary Gensler, right? So one of the things about that one, Jeff, is that people were like, it's a bipartisan bill. Well, here's the truth on that. Number one, every Republican voted for it. They didn't need a vote from any Democrat, and only 21 of 182 Democrats voted for it. And these are all people who are in tight races. Seems a little bit election influence because they're an election cycle. 21 out of 182 voting for it is hardly bipartisan, Jeff. I mean, of course, bipartisan means people from each party vote for it. But if you didn't even need the Democrat vote, so this is the kind of slop that I saw in these the Block, right? The Block, which is a crypto publication, and
Yep.
Here it is, just some talking points, quick takes. Biden's re-election campaign begun reaching out to crypto industry players over the past 2 weeks for guidance on crypto community and policy. Sources told the block. We don't know who the sources are. They're probably the same people parroting this message over on X. Sources also told the block they noticed a significant shift in the tone from the Biden administration campaign towards crypto, with a new willingness to understand digital assets and their communities. And the new outreach efforts came shortly after the Biden administration faced backlash for signaling it would veto the repeal of an alleged anti-crypto legislative measure. That was a couple of days ago. Mr. Brad Garlinghouse, CEO extraordinaire of Ripple, posted this on X, commenting on that story. If the Biden administration is actually serious about a shift and finally waking up to the crypto electorate, the single most important thing they can do is demand the resignation of Gary Gensler. Now, Jeff, what do you think about this post right here coming from Brad Garlinghouse?
So here's what's interesting about it. You can't, these guys want to have their cake and eat it too. It's that kind of a moment. Voting has ramification. If you support a specific policy's agenda or a specific party's agenda, you're going to have to live with the dire consequences of the rest of their decisions and the rest of their agenda. So you can't keep voting and supporting individuals and put them into office because they, support, whatever your ideas are, and it could be very woke and left leaning, which we've seen that, unfortunately, that kind of a woke initiative coming out of Ripple. And so if you're going to support those types of political candidates, you're going to have to live with the rest of their decisions, like a Gary Gensler. So I get it. I firmly support what Garlinghouse is saying there in terms of, it's time for Gary Gensler to go. There's been a complete overreach by the Democrats that are in office that's having a direct impact on his business and cryptocurrency at large. No one has seen it up close and personal as much as Brad Garlinghouse when the SEC came after him and singled him out and put Ripple on the forefront, fighting for the survival of crypto at large, not just his own company, because they are on the forefront. If they go down, the whole ship goes down. And so that's a part of it. However, that being said, and this goes back to the lack of bipartisanship, because you have the majority of the Republicans seem to have come out now in support of cryptocurrency and creating a rule of the road. And a majority of the Democrats have come out to oppose clear legislation on cryptocurrency. So that should be the wake-up call. And that's really all you need to see. All you need to see is that Senator Cynthia Lummis and Rep. Patrick McHenry were pressing Biden not to veto SAB 121 and to allow it to go through, but he didn't. The policy of Biden put Gary Gensler into his position that's been extremely antagonistic against cryptocurrency. But at the same time, Gary Gensler is upholding the policy shift of DEI and environmental, and injecting that into the SEC. That is their initiative. So if Brad Garlinghouse comes out and says, "Look, I want to get rid of Gary Gensler," it's all, a lot of that has to do with what he's done to his own company, but you're voting for and financially supporting the very people that put him into his position. And you're going to support the rest of their causes. So, so I support what he said there, but I think he needs to wake up. I think he has to open his eyes, look around him, and realize that the political people he's surrounding himself with are the very ones that are coming after and destroying his company, and the very ones that are propping up Gary Gensler.
But here's the thing, Jeff, that leftist ideology is difficult to break the stranglehold, right? Because but we've seen this all over X. But it's like you said it so well. You have to wake up and see exactly what's happening. I mean, it's either going or it's not. It's not like everyone's so shocked that it got vetoed. So Brad went on to say,
I wasn't shocked.
This is funny.
We knew it, but we knew it was going to get vetoed.
Now this is funny.
We talked about the fact that
of course
it was going to be vetoed.
We knew it. I mean, come
Everybody
on,
knew it was going to be vetoed.
So yeah,
and they're not serious about it.
I mean, that was the main reason.
They're not serious. But his point there, Chip, is that if they are actually serious, but they're not serious, they don't want to shift. They don't want to support cryptocurrency. They don't want to bring innovation back to this country. They don't. It's
the underlying. If you want to get to the heart of what it really comes down to, it comes down to this leftist idealism of control, right? They know better than you. They know what you should be thinking, what you should be doing, and how you should do it. And they want to be the purveyors of truth. So if they tell you this is the way we do it, everybody should go along that way. Where, let's face it, the Republicans are a little bit weak in the knees and a little bit shoddy. I'm not going to lie. That's why I'm an independent. But the point is that there's some of them that believe in freedom. Some of them believe in decentralization. A good number of them in the Republican Party. But when Warren Davidson was here, he said there's a bunch of his colleagues that parrot a lot of what the Democrats parrot, right? This anti-crypto stuff. But you can see the shift. One party's moving one way, the other party's been the other way. And even though somebody like Elizabeth Warren's toned down what she's doing, largely I think a lot of that has to do with the XRP army, crypto in general. But I also think John Dean has had a huge impact on that because of his win over the SEC, because of his undying belief for freedom. And he's been one of the few that says, look, I own more ETH than I own XRP. I own more Bitcoin than I own that, right? And he's always been truthful about that, but he saw some injustice, and that's why he went after. He said if they had gone after ETH, he would have done the same thing. This is a man that believes in decentralization, a man that believes in blockchain, and this is a man that believes that what Elizabeth Warren is up to is evil. And he followed it up with, well, after only a few hours, this post didn't age well. and the little emoji, to say this was incredibly disappointing from the White House is an incredibly pivotal time. At an incredibly pivotal time is an understatement. Well, not really, because we kind of all knew this. But if your belief system is that the side, let's face it, Ripple is a left leaning company, right? Garling, everybody there is. You know who isn't? There's an ex-Rippler who I've seen who is about as far right as you can get, and that's probably why he's an ex-Rippler. But anyway, I would love to get him on the show. I'm not going to name him, but we'll love to get him on the show because he's just pure fire. And so then he says it's an understatement. No, the understatement is that you absolutely believe something different. And of course, Jeff, this is the old adage, right? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different outcomes. That's right. Einstein, right? And that is this. And what was really interesting about this that I loved was that everybody got to out themselves for who they politically are, because of how they came out in favor of, well, the Democrats are warming up, and the Democrats. Well, thank you for telling me. I always kind of knew where you stood, but thank you for confirming it for me.
Right.
Look at this.
DK brings up an interesting point. He says Brad Garland now says this, but do you know who he voted for? We don't, and that's a really good point. We don't know who he voted for. We just know what he says. But that's a really solid point. We don't know, and that's that's a good thing. But we see a lot of the things that he has defended over time. Maybe not him specifically. I've always said it's kind of like an oxymoron because you see where Brad Garlinghouse stands, and he's been very outspoken, obviously very supportive of cryptocurrency, very outspoken against the direction that the U.S. government has been going in to not support innovation and chasing it offshore, and the fact that he might have to take his companies offshore. So, to DK's point, we don't know, and that's a really solid point. The rest of the tech house within Ripple could be very woke because we see it. He's the head of that system. We can only make a direct correlation that because Ripple seems to come out and support all these woke agendas, and many of the people there do, that Garlinghouse is the leader of that, would allow for all the company to come out in support of all the woke agenda. And we also said it just doesn't make sense. It's kind of it's so conflicted. where here they are going up and they're trying to move us in a direction of freedom, limitation. You know, they want to take some of the control mechanism away from the banking infrastructure. They want to streamline it. They want to get rid of a lot of the personnel fat that isn't required to do all of this stuff. But yet they support all these other crazy ideas. And this is where Ripple comes out. Remember, they had that whole commercial and they were focused on not so much how great their solution was, but the fact that from an environmental perspective, it was not like Bitcoin. I'm like, that's the wrong argument to make.
It is.
You know, and they stopped using that argument. You know, they used it, you know, so, you know, DK saying we're weird times. It is very weird times.
One thing I will say about Garlinghouse, crazy. He has been very complimentary of the way the GOP colleagues. He's been very outspoken about people like Warren Davidson and Tom Emmer, the bills. He's been he's been a proponent of it. So it's really hard to say where does he, you know, he's got a big role to play, you know, and when you obviously work for a company that leans a certain way, you kind of sort of have to kind of get in line and, you know, you see the exact opposite with Elon Musk and the way he's vilified, but there was a guy
that has been vilified.
There's a video that I had sent out where I said, this man needs his own show. He was just spitting truth bombs all left and right. And he said, like, when I go to work for a company and you endorse, you know, a left president, that's fine. That's cool. But if I come out pro, you know, Trump, I get vilified. I'll get deleted. I'll get canceled. And it's like, what happened to freedom? You know, you believe the way you want to believe. I believe the way I want to believe it. It shouldn't come in, and companies shouldn't be endorsing that. They shouldn't be part of that. This is interesting too, because Garlinghouse also said this: it's critical that the U.S. catch up with other leading economies and develop sensible and clear rules for crypto. He's spot on with that. Ripple's latest.
Then he undoes his statement.
Well, this was a couple days before that, so let's you know, this is still when optimism is kind of riding high, right? So Ripple's latest 25 million contribution to Fairshake, which Jeff and I have exposed as a very partisan, where it's 90% give to Democrats who are not pro crypto, to 10% of, you know, what everything's going on. So this fair shake is not a fair shake. It's a bullshit fair. It's not a fair shake at all. It
definitely isn't. But we're gonna have to go back and review it after the primaries and see where they put the bulk of the money. And Ripple gave a lot, but right now they gave $10 million to prop up Shifty Schiff, that has one statement on cryptocurrency, one. And all the
primary that he was never in danger of losing. This is the whole thing. They funneled $10 million. He was never going to be, what's her name? Katie
Hobbs.
Hobbs, I believe it is. Katie Hobbs. Yeah. And she's another Democrat that's in the House. Yeah.
She's already
and the way they painted the picture was because she's a former student of Elizabeth Warren, because they called her Elizabeth Warren's protege. And so she's, okay, they painted this picture, but there's no evidence around Schiff that he was going to be this pro crypto guy. He's never authored any bills. He's never sponsored any bills. He's been in the House since 2001. So Ripple's latest contribution of $25 million to Fairshake, investment in the inevitable march of progress and adoption of crypto and blockchain technologies, the future of finance, and a message backward-looking politicians and their failed policies will not be tolerated. Okay. Well, they are tolerated because, you know, show me the evidence of the people that Fairshake gives it to. And by the way, John Deaton still has not heard from Fairshake. Okay. And you got this guy, Ian Kane, making these ridiculous attacks on him. And he gets, obviously he doesn't get a lot of support, but you just never know how that's going to land.
Fairshake, they supported Shifty Schiff in a primary, but, you know, I think for the most part, when you see like a big PAC, they typically will wait. I mean, they can do whatever they want, but a lot of times they'll wait to see what the outcome is on a specific primary, unless one candidate is super dominant. But here's so they're coming after Elizabeth Warren. They see John Deaton as ahead. You know, he's already got the signatures. He's got money coming in. He's raised over $1 million himself. That's typically a big threshold to see if you can do that. He's made that part happen. The other guy, not so much, I don't think. But you know, everything will come out come August. And if Fairshake doesn't support John Deaton at that point, then we know exactly where they stand. I don't care who else they support, but if they don't support John Deaton, at least, we saw some of the monies that they gave Richie Torres 63,000. When
which is a joke, to be honest.
Which is a joke because he's been extremely outspoken with crypto and very pro crypto. And there's another one, it just doesn't make any sense because he's very much on the right side of most things. And then all of a sudden he comes out and says crazy things, like with, regarding Trump. And then he just upholds whatever the party narrative is,
which
I get because he's still part of the party and wants to be part of the party. But he could be like Joe Manchin and be like, hey, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to be an independent. There was a woman in California. She was a state senator. She cast her last vote and she had this whole speech prepared. And she said, I'm done with the Democrat Party. I left the Democrat Party. What's that?
She took the wrong approach. She was leaving, period. She was not leaving the party. She was gone. She was just resigning.
Well, she was leaving there, but she also left the Democrat Party. She said, I'm no longer part of the Democrat Party.
Right, but why didn't she stay and fight on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, each to their own. Maybe she's in California and felt like, everything was piling in. But that's the whole thing, is that there's a lot going on right now that has been very corrupted. The politics, everyone talked about how corrupted politics are, but it's been so corrupted. And then you see the outcome of the corrupted politics when they come after cryptocurrency. And then you have a president that just went through for an accounting, whatever. But then you have Elizabeth Warren, who's sitting in office that got into her university based on the misappropriation of another's culture, got brought into Harvard as a minority status, as her heritage being Native American. And they document that. And then she wrote for, I think, the Harvard Law Review or something, same thing, then gets hired as a professor. And under that same declaration, they even talk about how she was their first or only, Native American hiree, and all of this whole career path in existence, and then come out that it's not even true. And she misappropriated the culture. And now that's a complete theft and lie. And it's so deceitful. And then you got all these positions based on this narrative. And then you say, oh no, I didn't know. I just made that assumption. She had no proof of it, like zero proof, and it's just so crazy. I mean, but yet she can continue doing what she's doing, all of these, specific scenario. There's a lot of scenarios. We can back it up, go all the way back, but here she's the most outspoken against cryptocurrency, and she wants to destroy the narrative, and she wants to push it all overseas. I mean, that's so.
Well, I happened to rewatch because Jack Poso posted something about Gensler's picture and says, this is the party that, the former. So what he was alleging was the fact that, not even alleging, but it's a true statement, but the only person brave enough to confront Gary Gensler in a hearing was Byron Donalds, that said, hey, you're under oath, Mr. Chair. And by the way, you were the chief financial officer for Hillary Clinton's campaign. And the Steele dossier was paid. You paid money to a law firm that then turned around and paid this. He said, I had no idea what the law firm would do. Well, geez, that's the same thing as Trump. First of all, Trump didn't make any payments. I mean, listen, you can say what you want about whether he did it or not, but I mean, I don't know. My whole thing is like, it's an accounting error. 34 counts? I mean, come up with one. What are the 34 counts? So the whole idea of an accounting error, how about when Gensler wrote the check and gave it to QE Perkins, the law firm. He said under oath, I didn't know what they were using the money for. He didn't know, right? Same thing. Cohen did the same thing. Cohen stole money, $60,000 from the Trump organization. Cohen did his own things. He was in the background. Who knows? I mean, there's also alleged that he was having an affair. There's all kinds of weird stuff going on there.
But he's come out and he's admitted now that he stole $60,000. That's just the beginning of it. That's what he's admitting to. I mean, the guy should be now convicted of that. They go back. Maybe they need to press charges against him. I don't know if there's a statute of limitation on that.
There is, but not for
it's crazy. They've changed the whole narrative.
The law on the statute of limitations, and also everybody passed on this. The federal court passed on it. Everybody passed on it, but who didn't? You had Bragg and Letitia, who they ran on that they were going to get Trump. they were going to nail him. So that there's all that going on. Then you get this judge who Mershon, who his daughter, it conveniently was paid millions of dollars sent to her home from Democrat Congress people that was actually sent to her home. And I'm sure that was just a coincidence, right? What were they sending millions of dollars to her home for if that wasn't a payoff?
Exactly. And we're going to see this, on the positive side of all of it. Trump is an amazing individual because he's sitting there taking all of these hits. I mean, I don't know anyone else who could sit there and take the amount of abuse and then put it into and turn it all into a major positive, right? And so that's kind of the direction that we're seeing, as we're seeing, a lot of major positivity coming out of all this because, like you said earlier, it's showing all of the corruptive nature. It's showing where everybody stands, and then to boot, it's also galvanizing even more support, lots and lots of support. And here, you look at the craziness of all of it. So here's, the veto, right? Why did they veto it? And then what is the lie they tell the people, right? The lie they tell the people is that the bill, this bipartisan bill again, which was limited bipartisan on the Democrat side, would jeopardize the well-being of consumers and investors. That's the lie they want to tell everybody.
But that's
it's crazy to me.
They're going to control what's good for you, and they're going to protect you because they know better. You're just not smart enough to make your own decisions. But don't worry, they'll make them for you because it does follow exactly with the narrative of how they vote and how they believe.
If you believe this, you've got to wake up. Just wake up. I mean, it's so amazing to me. Every single narrative and initiative, it's always about we're doing what's good for you. We did this because it's good for you, because we know better than you. And we're going to keep doing what's, and my administration will not support measures that will jeopardize the well-being of consumers and investors. Everything they've done for the past 3.5 years has jeopardized consumers and investors. Consumers, the cost of everything is higher, everything across the board. You go to the grocery store, about 30% higher, 40% higher. Therefore, I'm vetoing this resolution. And now, that's the SAB 121. And then we have the FIT. Now, let's see what happens with that. It's passed Congress, but let's see what happens on that one. Biden had signaled his intent to veto the legislation on the day it was passed by the House.
But he still hasn't made a choice on this. He's trying to run out the clock here. But I mean, somebody really did it. I forgot who it was. It was one of the guy from Bankless. He had said something like, "This was such an easy layup for the Biden administration. It was easy. Just take it. It's a win, right?" I mean, you had bipartisan support. You had people of your party voting for it. But again, to me, the FIT 21 would have been is still the bigger one. Now that gets vetoed, and it's suicide, right? It's absolute suicide because we know the 20% of the electorate who's the voting public is really engaged with crypto. And listen, you're not going to earn their vote. Jim D makes a good point. He says the high felony count number was for each of the 12 partial check cut payments Trump signed for. Each one is treated as a separate felony. It's a circus. And by the way, Pepe is on Solana. And you know what else is soon going to be on Solana? The badass chimps are going to be on Solana, baby. Yep. Damn right. We'll let you know more about that when that happens. Sorry, Robert D says, sorry, but I think that it's a pivotal when a de-dollarization from BRICS shows its ugly head in July and October, and Brad will have to split from CBDCs or BRICS commoditization of all currencies. Interesting comment right there. Mr. Sean McBride is the elephant in the room at Ripple Chip. That is absolutely right. You have absolutely said it. We got to get Sean on here. He was the elephant in the room. Charles is, you see what I love about you guys? You guys pay attention, man. You throw just a little something small out there. You guys are just too good, man. You guys are just too good. Yes, Sean. That's right. He has gone all in. So just a couple more things here. I wanted to show this where Jack Poso said, this is Gary Gensler. He was the Hillary official who oversaw filing payments for the fake Steele dossier's legal expenses. Now he's the chairman of the SEC. And I'm like, yeah, and Byron Donalds was the one to call him out about these payments. and I had to rewatch this today.
Play.
It's brilliant. Byron Donalds,
so crazy.
He is the VP pick. You know why? Because he could run 8 years as an amazing president. He's phenomenal.
He's amazing. He is very. I mean, and he's a relatively young guy, and he's doing an amazing job. He's just over the age to run for president, so which is really great. But the guy, I think he's the guy's solid. The guy is really solid. We obviously had him on the show here. We've had Tom Emmer. We're going to start bringing some more good guests back on, some good high profile guests back onto the show. But, make sure you guys check out, go to onthechain.io, onthechain.io. You can easily subscribe, and that way you can support through there, or just go with the free subscription. Just log in and you'll get an email every time we wrap up a show. It'll have links to the video, links to the audio podcast, and what's great, links to all the different articles that we cover. So that'll be really, really great for you guys. And then you just come in here, you can be like, hey, you know what? I want to find anything you guys did with Emmer. You can look at all the different things that we've done with Tom Emmer. Maybe even look up the show that we did with Tom Emmer right there. Look at that. That's Congressman Tom Emmer. And then if you said, hey, you know what? I want to, let's check out Byron Donalds. And there you go. You just come. Oh no, that's not a good thing. He's got a 404 on Byron Donalds.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but
what is going on with that?
There's something with the tag. I don't think it's tagged properly, so I think I ran into that as well.
But there it is right there. Here's all the different. You can find it. Here's the articles. Here's the video. There's the podcast right there. That's Tom Emmer. So you can check it out. We'll have to find out why the Byron Donalds isn't there. But go to onthechain.io, and it's just an amazing source.
Yeah, and scroll all the way down and put your email in there, guys, because you got to wrap up with the show. If you missed it, you can just scroll through the articles that we post right there.
Right there, just put your email in, join the OTC family, and you just get these emails.
Chat. Drop the link in the chat.
Like it's hot.
Donalds won't be the pick because it makes too much sense, says Dash. There you go, right there. Can you get Kamal on the show to tell us more about yellow buses? We love yellow buses. Are we talking about the short bus? I mean, man, she's too much. And then we had, in this one also too, we had Meta Lawman, who's phenomenal, another great follow in the space. But he said, he was commenting on that Biden vetoed the bill. He said, I'm glad now we know, no confusion about where this administration stands. And I'm like,
right.
We always knew where this administration stood. The Democrats and the anti-crypto party. I mean, come on, this is not.
Some people just take a little bit longer, to wake up.
Now, if they really wanted to make some headway and they wanted to save some face, they don't veto the Fit 21, and they do sort of redeem themselves and say, hey, I mean, it's the only way you're going to believe anything if you have to give a little to get something. And now I would be shocked if that happened. But if you're this administration, you're flailing around every subject, this would be a way to redeem yourself and say, like, you know what, we've rethought this. We did outreach to the community. We know there's a lot of support from our party, and we've kind of rethunk this whole thing and rethunk it, Jeff. We kind of rethought, and it seems like it does make a lot of sense. And that's how you redeem yourself. You start making moves towards doing something you got to give, right? And do I see that happening? No, but it would be a brilliant move by this administration if you wanted to sort of even yourself up and say, you know what, we strongly believe in Fit 21 and that consumers have the right to make their own choices, that blockchain is the way. I mean, that's what you should do. I mean, if you want to redeem yourself and get yourself back in the game, but I don't see it happening, Jeff. I really don't see it happening.
Oh, the problem that we're facing right now with the Fit 21 is that it passed, what was it, May 22nd, passed the House. I think it was May 22nd, and now it's sitting on its way to the Senate. I can't even find it. I don't even think it's been updated yet from the Senate perspective. Normally they take the bill and they'll change the title on it when it goes to the Senate. But I don't see anything. I don't know if anybody can find it, but I'm not finding where it is. That means maybe it's gone to the, it's been assigned to a committee. Maybe it's not. It might even die in the Senate. It might just go to a committee and sit there and die. Might not even get any more traction. I don't know.
That's the best way, because that's the best way. It doesn't. Then you don't even have to tag the administration on that. Just say, oh wow, the Senate was just too busy. They didn't have time for it. And that's what happens. It gets delayed until after the election.
There were 4 amendments to the bill, kind of went back and forth through different through the Democrats, the Republicans. They kind of passed it around a little bit. And it was one of those bills, though, that was actually pretty clean because there was nothing else on it. There was no fat. We talked about that the other day. I kind of like that, is that it was just kind of clean. And then there's another bill that's out there for consideration, which is HR 1243, which is providing regulation of digital assets by the CFTC and the SEC, kind of the joint purpose. And so that one is being discussed right now also. That one.
Here's the bill that I would like to propose, Jeff. Here's Congressman Chip's proposal.
Okay.
It's going to be really one statement. Decentralized digital assets are commodities.
What's that? Are
commodities.
That's easy.
Everything else is a security. There it is. There's the bill. We're done. So that means commodities, CFTC, they regulate that. If you agree on that if it's decentralized and it's a digital asset, it's a commodity, it gets regulated. You don't need colorful language. You're done.
No, that's it. You don't need much.
If it follows the Howey test. And write some new regulations about what a security is, and you're done. That's the bill. Let's not make it crazy.
That's it. Make it easy. We want to keep it easy.
Easy's good.
Mr. Lee, waking up to the city, fellas, cutting my driveway up to fix it. There we go. See, look at that. Trying to fix a sewer pipe, getting his driveway all cut up, and still watching OTC.
Gotta love that. That's commitment.
Man, look who's back. We saw Joni came in here. We've got Dash in here.
Dash has been making some good points.
Yeah. It's great to see, people kind of, they drop in. They haven't been around a little bit. And then we're starting to see all these names pop up in the comments, which is awesome.
Look at this, Jeff. So Crypto Eddie says it's all about the builders, right? She was commenting on, Phil Kwok was sitting there talking about how many thousands of builders were building on the XRPL. He had a picture with Brad Garlinghouse. And I said, once again, spot on. And Expat XRP said, it's the banks or bust. No one has been hodling XRP since 2019 for the builders. If it's all about the builders, we'd be hodling ETH since 2019 getting rich. And I'm like, yeah, if there's no building, there's no future. Take a look at Solana. There's tons of building happening, making it one of the top chains right now. You think anyone cares if it goes down roughly once every other month? No. Take a look at Solana's price. It's all about the builders. It always has been. It always will be. And, at the Wave of Innovation in Australia and the Gold Coast, Blockchain Backer did an amazing presentation where he documented the number of builders, the number of commits on chain that was actual development that was happening had a direct correlation to the price of a project. XRP, the XRPL was like number 30 something. And if you looked at the top 10 and you looked at the price and you looked at what was going on, it had everything to do with builders. It's like, this is what really firmly etched that sort of stronghold on that opinion, is because Blockchain Backer documented it. And then he had all the receipts. He brought he presented it in a brilliant way. And you're thinking to yourself, well, yeah, it makes 100% sense. We've also had John Doe in the community that's, John Doe is, you get that right. No, it's not John Doe. It's one of the other community members. The name escapes right now. Maybe he's listening right now. But again, documenting all the commits that have been happening on chain.
Apex
Crypto. Thank you for that. Apex Crypto has been documenting exactly all the commits that are happening. And again, that's brilliant work that's going on, because he looked for it, couldn't find it. Listen, this isn't tough. It's about builders. If you're sitting there in the Ripple camp, listen, God bless Ripple. I want them to do phenomenally well. But again, they're not the only ones, and they're just one of the people moving on there, and they're not the end all be all.
No, I mean, I'll tell you, if you need any more proof, and I had put out a tweet, I don't even know if anybody got any traction on it. But if you want any proof, all you have to do is follow the money, follow where some of these companies are staking their future project. And PayPal started their stable coin, I think is an ERC20, and they quickly moved it over to Solana. So if you look at where PayPal is not just some little rinky-dink company. Obviously been around quite a bit. They're one of the, the first to become the largest in the payment space. A lot of that had to do with their tie up with eBay that really propelled it. And they changed and revolutionized how payments were made, online payments. And so here you have PayPal getting into the space, right? They sat on the sidelines for a long time, and everyone's wondered where was PayPal on all of this. And so if we look at where PayPal is, well, they have their retail stablecoin, and they're now on Solana. So tell us that building isn't critical for the development of the platform. If PayPal wasn't, move, or if Solana wasn't the direction of providing a solid base for moving and building a project, I don't think PayPal would have gone there. It would be interesting to see what what exactly was their full narrative as to why they wanted to do that. But look, you have the Pi USD has 8,600 holders on the Ethereum blockchain and a market cap of around 400 million. So they're just getting started. It's real small. Their primary competitors, Circle and Tether. Chip, do you think, with PayPal entering into this space, are they going to surpass Tether? Are they going to, dominate as, a top three for sure? Because those are the top three: Circle, Tether, and now PayPal. Where does PayPal go with it? And what is the overall impact on the Solana project, and the Solana chain and all the other projects that we're going to want to go there and utilize the PayPal stablecoin? And maybe look at PayPal, say, look, there's a firm, solid organization. I don't know about Tether. Between Circle and PayPal, I think it's coming down to that. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think they got a pretty strong foothold too. I mean, also too, it depends if that goes over to Venmo, because I mean, there's a certain demographic, like my daughters, it's like, hey, let me Venmo you money, let me Venmo this and Venmo that. And I use to pay people all the time. And so if that becomes a norm over there and becomes part of that infrastructure, and so you're grabbing market share from a lot of different places. And I think too, when you think about too, they also own Braintree. Braintree is one of the big payment companies that merchant accounts that people have. Braintree is one of the biggest. I've certainly used them before in the past at software companies where I've been in. So I think that right there could really maybe make a pretty sizable impact on how they grab market share. But there has to be some adoption in there. So we'll have to wait and see how that works. But I think it's fascinating that they moved it off the ERC20. Didn't make any sense to be over there, where they moved it to Solana, which made a lot of sense. So people can say what they want. Bitcoin, it's slow. Who cares? It's the brand. And you should be happy for the person that dug the well, Satoshi Nakamoto, who dug that well, that made it possible for everybody to drink from it, from the digital asset well. That's what people miss. Who cares if it's not 3 to 4 seconds? This Maxiism. It's all about what we talked about the other night, all interoperability. Jeff, this was fascinating here. So Zenfin came out and they said that SBI XDC Network APAC has announced that the proof of concept project with SBI R3 Japan was successfully completed. The POC, this is a proof of concept. This is what you do in software when you make sure that the feasibility of it, and does it work? Did it, what are your outcomes? Did it work exactly the way you expected it to work? Did it produce the results you expected? When they say it's successfully completed, it means it passed all the measures. And the POC proved that value via digital asset can be transferred over digital distributed ledger technologies, DLT, XDC network, and R3 Corda platform as a form of payment to improve efficiency and facilitate inter-business settlement and trade transactions. And Minus Wells put this out. And I thought, what a brilliant way to say this. He said, I suppose this settles the debate. All the XRP people that said this wasn't the case are quiet now. I remember who you are. And I also remember that they attacked Minus's wife, which is Chaser. Okay, Moonchaser, who came out and said, yes, I've written to them. I've got the proof and the receipts. And she was called out for being a bad actor. I mean, just the incoming that she took from this. And this is where I go crazy, because you got this fringe part of the XRP community telling you that it's going to be the reserve currency, it's going to be backed by gold, the price is going to be $4 million per token. I mean, this nonsense stuff. We're also the ones attacking, also Crypto Eddie, Moonshade. I mean, all for what? Because this narrative has been they're going back to 2017 narratives. There was a big blow up. The whole thing to me, Jeff, is ridiculous. And Minus says this beautifully. We remember who you are, and you are quiet because you've been outed. You were wrong. You can't even come out and say you're wrong. XDC, baby.
They won't last. When the space matures, there's going to be a certain percentage of the community that's just going to disappear into the woodworks, because when the space matures, and we're talking about crypto as a whole, right? You look at the stock market as a whole, there's a lot of YouTubers, they talk about different movement of different stocks. They talk about maybe the political aspect, the economic aspect, whatever it might be. There's not a lot of hype other than, some of the memes stocks, but that there was a specific initiative, even with the whole GameStop thing, of finding the fact that there were all these big conglomerate, financial institutions that were shorting GameStop, and the meme crowd, came in and kind of busted that up, and the price got jacked up, and then people got very, very, focused even on the GameStop stock. There's still a lot of maximalism around that, but people aren't like, I'm only going to buy GameStop and nothing else. People are just very focused on, I'm never going to, people come out, you can see it on some of the social media. I'm never going to sell GameStop. I'm holding it, and they're going to ride it up, ride it down, whatever's going to happen. But the crypto space eventually will mature into that space where, you get kind of well-defined reasons why you're investing into an asset. And the asset has to do with projects, development, like within Solana, there has to be rationale. It can't continuously, 10 years from now, we can't have a market within cryptocurrency that's strictly backed by speculation and strictly backed by hype, because there's no basis to it at that point. There can be an acceptance of it, kind of like Bitcoin. There's global acceptance of Bitcoin that it has a certain value, and the whole marketplace has assessed it based on that value. And that could be with most of the cryptocurrencies, but the blockchain and the development, and like you said, with what Blockchain Backer had shown, those that have more development are valued higher. And that's what it is, because people are going to look like Ethereum. Well, there's tons and tons of ERC20 tokens, whether it's directly correlated to Ethereum, the ERC20s, whether they're using it or not. People are like, well, Ethereum is a thing. That's where I'm investing. I'm going to buy Ethereum. I'm not necessarily going to buy all these other ERC20s, but that's kind of what galvanizes it. And right now, in order for XRP to go to that next level, we got to get rid of the hype. We got to get rid of the nonsense. And that's what's happening. It's maturing. It's not just about Ripple. It's about development on the blockchain, utilizing the XRPL and seeing what can be done with it. Because in all reality, if you think about it, and maybe PayPal wouldn't use the XRPL because of a Ripple, because it would be a direct competitor utilizing the same chain. But if there was more development and more focus on growing the XRPL, PayPal might have taken it more seriously and said, hey, you know what, ERC20, Solana, or should we use the XRPL for our stable coin because all the amazing technology is already there? They chose Solana. It's a really interesting decision, I still think, but
how about the decision we made with where we're going to put our next NFT project?
The next project, because there's lots of focus over there. There's not so much focus on the XRPL. Granted, we put two NFT projects on the XRPL. We still have a lot of ideas of development in that space, and we've been working with some third parties to see how we can expand the ecosystem, using it. But it's very difficult. It's this whole thing, when there's not a lot of utility or not a lot of users that are engaged with the different chains, and you see tons and tons of engagement over on Solana. We're talking about millions of transactions on Solana versus a couple thousand. What a different impact, so yeah, right. Builders have to come to that space. And like your point, and it really kills me, because why would they attack like a Moonchaser who's looking for, or a Crypto Eddie who digs and finds amazing data, right? Does a lot of research. Then you have the hypers that come out and badmouth her because they want to believe that XRP is going to be backed by gold, or they want to believe that there's going to be some buyback by the government and they're going to use XRP instead of the US dollar. I mean, those narratives, you can believe whatever you want. You know, you want to believe 589. Is XRP going to get to 589? Hey, we know.
I would love it.
Right. It'd be amazing. Even David Schwartz said, hey, it could be 1,000. You know, I mean, it could go higher. Right now it's 50 something cents. Let's get over $1. Let's end this whole narrative of the five, you know, even though we'd like to talk about it. I like it. It's fun. The 589 and the dancing bears and the riddles and all that stuff. That was 2017. You know, that's when crypto was kind of coming out of the woodworks. We're in 2024, getting ready to go into 2025 with a president that is going to support cryptocurrency. The market's about to shift. We're going to go from that crowd to the serious crowd. It's going to be about the financial institution. Things are about to develop. Things are about to change, and let's galvanize behind that. And that's all. And that's all there is to it. You know, I mean, man, it's an exciting time because things are where the piece is going to fall. We don't even know. We don't know what's going to happen.
This is a good point. Jungle Inc.'s last video was also great. XRP is a dinosaur until you start adding all the pieces: finality, transactions per second, liquidity. Yeah, I talk to Jungle pretty often, chat back and forth here and there. He's got a really always a phenomenal, interesting take, whether you agree sometimes or not. But I like the way he comes at it. You know, he's always approaching it. He's one of the rare minds that, you know, he can uncover or see like something a little bit different than everybody else sees. And I think that's really the allure. Dash also says, I'm willing to have my mind changed on Solana, but I'll never get over how often it goes down. Maybe it's due to how popular it is, though. No, it has to do with the way it's structured, the way, you know, if because it's running on AWS and because pieces of it can't. It's not. Well, it's the infrastructure of why it goes down. But again, who cares? It's been down for 12 hours. It's been down for 14 hours. Doesn't matter. You got to go where the people are. And it's like, if they're at Bitcoin, Solana, you know, blew up. I remember when Solana was $15. I remember when it was $60. I remember when it was $100, right? So it's and the reason we're going over there is because they have a massive NFT community that's bigger than, it's growing to be bigger than ETH, right? And for a while, there was a little bit of talk about, you know, the Bitcoin. But again, that's become so unapproachable just because of how expensive it is to mint over there. So
yeah. And to Dash's point here too, XRP and Ripple are going to be there for the final stage. I think Ripple definitely, you know, is going to be there for sure because they've been moving. The final stage is what they're going to be doing for helping to transact money between financial institutions. That's their business model. They're having a lot of success on a global front. Whether they use XRP or not to make it happen is a different story. Will XRP be there to the final stage? I think there's a lot of focus on it. The narrative is we need more money injected into the development on the XRPL. Without that focus, I think that it potentially can end up slipping. And we're seeing a lot of focus on a lot of investment and a lot of big players. We need a big player coming to the XRPL. The fact that PayPal went to Solana means that PayPal is also going to invest heavily to make sure that Solana doesn't go down. They can't afford to have their stablecoin overutilizing a Solana and it goes down and you can't move their asset because it's on Solana. PayPal is going to invest heavily in that. That's a game changer. Here, once the government and corporations fully integrate crypto, when government and corporations fully integrate crypto, nobody's going to care how they're integrating it. No one's going to know how they're integrating it. It's all going to be the engine behind the scenes. It's going to be like it is now. Does anybody know how they actually move the money? Like the public, like when you use Zelle, how does it work? Nobody even knows.
Nobody cares.
Like, nobody cares, right? All I care is that I get it. When I use my credit card, how does that technology work? I don't know. You know, does anyone really care about it? They don't. So when crypto gets to that point, it's going to be amazing because it's going to be very seamless. What we need to make sure that we avoid, which is what President Trump vocalized in his speech, is that we don't have a central bank digital currency that comes in, and we got to stop that at all cost.
And by the way, Jeff,
that can't happen.
Who voted against that bill to outlaw CBDCs? 100% the Democrats. That tells you everything you need to know in that one statement. Crypto Navigator says we only need to wait till January. We'll have a new president. Things will get much better. It's going to be the summer of sucks, unfortunately, but they can't stop innovation. It's going to happen eventually. Right on.
That's right. Innovation is great.
One more. Innovation. I'll throw this up there. Elon Musk had commented on Geiger Capital saying the first felony conviction of a former U.S. president wasn't for the Iraq or Afghanistan wars, illegal CIA coups, drone striking, weddings, spying on Americans, blah, blah, blah. No. Elon Musk said, indeed, great damage was done to the public faith in American legal system. If a former president can be criminally convicted over such trivial matter, motivated by politics rather than justice, then anyone is at risk of a similar fate. David Schwartz chimed in and said, to the extent this is true, it's a very good thing. The people who most feel this way are the same people who show no sympathy whatsoever when exactly that happens to people they don't like and don't identify with. I don't know what he's talking about there. I think that sometimes David Schwartz just likes to push people's buttons. I almost think like that this makes no sense. Okay, it was beyond trivial. I mean, you can follow the money. You can follow that the district attorney ran on what are you going to do for us? Are you going to crack down on all the crime that's going on in New York City? Are you going to put people away? Are you going to lock them up? Or are you going to release them as soon as they come in? Are you going to do anything about that? No, I'm going to get Trump. That was the whole stuff. So no recusing, none of that stuff. So that's pretty much what it came down to. And then we had this, which is funny because Will Chamberlain tweeted out, the problem for Democrats is they extracted a conviction without doing any work to convince the public that Trump had actually committed crimes. And now David Schwartz says he's put his finger on the real problem for the Democrats. And I said, well, you know what the best part of it is? They own it. They created the largest fundraiser for Trump while simultaneously securing his victory. Well done, Democrats. Never interrupt your enemy when they're in the process of destroying themselves. This is why I like when they go ahead and veto the SCB like 121. I love it. Thank you very much. You guys are amazing. Well done.
This whole thing, the direct, my thought, and I'll go back, 3.5 years, where our country was. And one of the things that Trump had seen when he kind of came in 2016 is that you guys are going to get sick of winning. The one thing that he revealed was the corruptive nature, right? We saw it in 2016 with the fake dossiers and all of that. We saw all the shenanigans that happened in 2020. We saw the narrative of the C-19 on a global scale. We saw how corrupted people became. And it's interesting. I can't remember who was saying this, but it was one of the political shows was saying that most people believe that during World War II, they would be Schindler from Schindler's List, saving Jews from the concentration camp. But what we saw during the whole C-19 thing, the whole COVID thing, especially like in places like Canada and, certain cities here or certain cities and states in the US, that neighbor turned on neighbor. And it was the exact opposite, that most people came out to support the regime against their neighbor, turned their neighbor in, and became crazy because it's, human nature. There's a certain segment of society that will stand up and fight. And there's a certain segment that will just get crazy and just immediately support, and that's what we saw. A lot of that, a lot of the insanity, and we're starting to see, what we needed, unfortunately, was the insanity had to be revealed even further. Right. So the past 3.5 years, as bad and detrimental as it has become, because we've seen a destabilization on a global stage, we've seen the undermining of our innovation in this country to push it offshores. And that's been going on, for a little bit longer than that. But we've seen the animosity and the directed focus of pushing all of our innovation offshore. But we needed it. We needed this revelation. We needed people to really see but feel the impact of what these leftist policies will do, and also show that the overall the conservatives and the Republicans aren't as they've been demonized to a point where and dehumanized, and we needed to see that as well, because here, look at the narrative. You saw when they asked Biden that one question about Trump, and he turned around and he said, but you're gaining politically from it. Turn around with a wicked ass smile on his face. So bizarre. Like, the whole thing is so bizarre. And the one thing that I've said, from the beginning is, we'll have family members, we'll have friends, and you have others that will that will embrace the leftist policy. And that you're right. We're on the right side of history. What I say is you always have to be willing with open arms to welcome them back into the fold, because at some point they'll come back to the fold. It might not be this year, might not be next year, might take 10 or 20 years, might take 30 years. But at some point they're coming back to the fold. And when they do, you got to welcome them. And what has been happening is that celebrities across the board are coming out and realizing the mistakes they made in 2020 and 2016. Not fully, but what they're seeing is a complete breakdown of civil society over the past 3.5 years. They've seen inflation skyrocket. They've seen an administration that has gone against, the fabric of the country, what allowed someone like a Rock or a Cardi B or others to actually be who they are today. Right? If we didn't have what we have in this country, they wouldn't be who they are. They wouldn't have those opportunities. They wouldn't be multimillionaires a couple times over. They wouldn't be in music or movies or whatever it might be and make the amount of money. Now, finally, we're starting to see even the celebrities coming out and saying, I shouldn't have endorsed them. I made a mistake, and now the question is where they go from that. But we see this kind of in stages. We see that it's almost like, when you have a loss of some sort, what do you go through? Like you have a denial and I don't know there's different stages of it until you finally admit it. And then you have to make a change. So these guys have gone through all of that, the denial, the remorse, whatever stage they're on, they're coming back in. And at some point they have that wake up call. And we're seeing it. We're seeing a lot of them. Bill Ackman. There's another one, he's kind of like, it took him a little while, but you could see it happening. Bill Maher, there's a whole bunch of Russell Brand, another one. There's a whole group of them. Tim Pool, another one that's on YouTube. These are, people that you probably know, but they woke up, and they had that wake up call. And this is going to happen in droves. Mass numbers are waking up right now. And that's why you needed the 3.5 years, because without what we just suffered through, all the corruptive nature of society would still be buried under the carpet. And it's not just focused on one party. It's on both parties. There's a corruptive nature on both sides.
Of course.
Just the left own most of the corruption right now. The revelation will be on the right as well.
I've always said I respect the Democrats in the sense that they always back each other and they always have each other's back. They always will tell you exactly what they're to do. Now, the Republicans are scammy. They're weak-hearted. They're feckless. They'll get out there to microphone and start screaming, and they'll go in and vote a different way. They're not reliable. They're very underhanded the way they won't support each other. They're very, and the Democrats don't do that. Democrats tell you what they're going to do. They're unified in their belief system. They're unified all over the. And that's one of the great advantages the Democrats have, where the Republicans are all over the place. They cry and they moan, they get power and they squander it. They're morons to a large degree. Kieran Kelly put this out. He said, convicted felons are not allowed to travel to many countries across the world. So how does Trump handle that if he wins? And how do country leaders across the world handle without embarrassing themselves? And I said, well, this will likely be overturned. If not, when Trump wins and takes office, he can pardon himself. Well, then Matt Hamilton, former Rippler, came in and said, now you finally realize why Trump is running. I'm like, oh, is that so he could pardon himself? That's why.
That's such a kind of a silly statement. I'm assuming he's saying it from a facetious joking perspective, because he ran in 2016. He didn't run in 2016 to pardon himself.
Well, here's the other thing.
He sacrificed his entire business. Here you have a multi-billionaire, and all of a sudden he's putting all that behind him to put himself in the spotlight to run for president.
Trump has been around for ages in New York, right? He never, he's always been a law-abiding citizen. They never got anything. He brilliantly played his hand with the taxes, or they were going to get his taxes, and went to the Supreme Court and said, yeah, I turn over your taxes. Well, what he did was he opened up a precedent now that you can get anybody's taxes, because if you can get the president's taxes, well, now you can get any president's tax returns, and you can get anybody in Congress tax returns, and then maybe you can find out where their family's hiding money, right? So it was a brilliant move. And the funny thing is, the whole time he was in business, he never got sued. Nothing ever happened. They only wanted to go after him 3 years after the fact. If it was such a pressing issue, why didn't they go after him then, right? So I said, well, to restore the U.S. as a powerhouse of energy independence, low inflation, innovation, growth, and low unemployment, reducing government regulations, yeah, I've certainly realized why. And soon you too, when the people speak in November, freedom's on the rise, decentralization over centralization, leftist control and censorship are on the decline. Enjoy your failed leftist ideals. I choose freedom, Jeff. And then he said, you're so easily fooled. It's scary. And I said, well, no belief system is more easily duped than leftism. History proves it. Case in point, when the government told you to get a vaccine to protect against COVID, you eagerly complied without question, driving by with your arm out the window. No questions or critical thinking. Instead of scrutinizing peer-reviewed studies, you gladly complied. Easily duped. The vaccine didn't prevent COVID, didn't halt the spread, yet you eagerly comply without questions. When the Nazis marched across Europe, each leftist country surrendered without a fight. Churchill stood up, and look at how Great Britain rewarded the man who helped save Europe. If you guys go back and read the stories about how they tortured this man, how they wanted him out of office, and all the leftist articles that were trying to rewrite what actually happened, it's no different than today. You think, well, 1945, 1946, go back and read what they wrote about Churchill after 45 and 46. The man who stood up, the U.S. came over and they single-handed, he was the only one out of all of Europe. He was, you could say he was an eccentric guy and this and that, but he was willing to die for his country. Everybody else rolled over because they're leftist wussies. And he stood up and he was vilified in the press. And if you think it's worse than today, go back and read some of this stuff. We should do that. We should read some of that stuff that was written about him.
We should do that tomorrow night. We'll pull those up. We'll read those tomorrow night.
It's just unbelievable. But anyway, that's it's always fun engaging with Matt. I do have a fondness for Matt. I've met him a couple times, and when we hang out, we don't even talk politics. We've just goofed around and joked around and stuff.
I like Matt because he constantly prods. When you go through a discussion, he'll put some, and it's such a simple statement, but it's enough to where you want to respond like that.
Oh, he's good at poking the bear, Jeff, and I'm good at.
He loves the pinpricks. Like, he's definitely poking you. Like, he have this stick from a little.
I love it, and it's good back and forth banter. And look, I mean, Matt's a good guy. I mean, he believes differently than I do. We need more of that. We need more engagement of people that believe differently. I'll believe the way I'm not going to change the way he thinks. He's not going to change the way I think. But like Jeff said, there has to be a way to welcome people, whether they believe what you believe or not. But we all have family members.
Welcome that back to the fold.
Welcome back to the fold. It's like, come on back, but it may never change, But the funny thing about Matt is I remember him saying that he was very conservative in his youth, and now he's got, which is usually opposite, usually a little bit
people
more.
Come back.
Everybody
comes back.
I don't know about everybody, Jeff. I really don't know about everybody. I don't know that everybody comes back, but I think one guy posted on X. He said, "I despise and hate Donald Trump. I'm voting for Donald Trump." Okay, because, and I said, you may despise the man, but what could be worse than a failed Biden administration? Like, that's how bad it is where you've got people that were so anti Orange Man bad that they're like, we have no other choice to vote for them. Look at how the Biden administration has treated Israel throughout this whole thing. Look at how they, I mean, even all the evidence that came out, and they said, "Well, there was a giant fire and they bombed the church." Well, when they did looked at the evidence and stuff, turned out more lies,
it's so strategic.
It's strategically, you're right. It's so strategic. It's like a laser focus to be able to create a propaganda narrative. But none of these people, for some reason, we were like, "Oh, we have to support Ukraine because of why, Jeff? Because democracy." Meanwhile, the man who canceled the elections, who outlawed a Christian church, who took over the press and made it state-run, that's what we're supporting, because democracy. And meanwhile, he canceled democracy and became a dictator because, the war. You got to keep the war going. And, Putin, honestly, they've been kind of like laid back in this whole thing, but now trying to get them involved in NATO and now talking about nuclear stuff. Listen, World War III is on the table right now, and it's scaring a lot of people. And I think if it came down to a conflict that happened before the election and a draft was enabled, and you're now going to send your kids over there, your brother, your sister, over to defend so-called democracy, You want to see people. So when it affects them dramatically, like how it is with crypto, how it is with the inflation, when you can't, you have to choose over buying this food or that food, and you have to try to feed your family. All of a sudden, it's not fun anymore. And people remember 3.5 years ago when it was under, inflation was under 2%. You could buy gasoline for $1.92, $2, right? They remember that, Jeff. And that's where, I mean, it'd be like, he'll never leave. Well, he did leave already. I mean, do people forget, like he's going to be a Hitler? He was president for 4 years and this stuff worked. This is what they're terrified of. Because when somebody wants to control and censor you of everything you do, and they want to control what you do or think, they don't want a man who's going to stand for the people. And this is why he's going to win, because he says, we are doing this, not I did
the
this.
Third time.
Yeah, Biden, I did this, and I gave you this, and I gave you that. Oh, well, thank you, Supreme Leader. But no, we the people, we want you out of our life. We want less government. Trump had a policy for every new government regulation, you had to get rid of 2 other ones. So it was like you make the choice, and it should be 10. And he reduced a lot of that regulation, get rid of all of it, reduce the government agencies, get rid of the 3-letter agencies, start anew.
He has to come in like Malay and Bukele come in and be like, here's all the different agencies, gone. Malay was great with that.
And he has a surplus now, Jeff. In 6 months, he has a surplus, and they were in debt, and he's turning that country around. And what they're fearful of, and by the way,
he's doesn't like it. The U.S., the leftists here don't like it.
No, they're going to try to undermine. But they try to crush Bukele too. When Bukele said, when he turned that country around, and he was going all in on Bitcoin, the World Bank said they're not going to support him because he asked the World Bank for help. They said, "Screw you." Every organization flipped on him and didn't want to help and wanted to crush him. You know what? He had the last laugh. He's doing Bitcoin mining. He's looking out for his people. He's doing the best. And then he had that famous speech where he called all his cabinet members and said, every one of you is going to be investigated. And they were like, what? Every single one of you is going to be investigated because I want to make sure that everyone in my administration is on the up and up. And that was like, whoa. Now you could call that a little bit of grandstanding, but who's done that? Who's actually made the move to do that? Okay, a guy that wants everybody investigated is going to make a lot of enemies. I'm sorry, Jeff. There's going to be even if it's a small amount of corruption, it's going to be bad. When you have 10 million people coming over the border, and most of them are military-age men. They're not families. They're military-age men, and they hail from other places outside of Central and South America. And let's just do some math. Suppose it's 1%. That's a lot of bad energy in this country. And if suppose something happens where, some others, and we're already starting to see, Lake and Riley, was murdered by one. And you know what that guy did? He went into court and he pleaded not guilty. The crushing move that those parents had to deal with.
They're already criminal felons by coming into the country illegally, and the whole narrative on that point, and it's global. It's a global invasion, right? So the Islamo-fascists have partnered with the communists. And so we see that. We see the leftists over here, and we see the Islamo-fascists, right? And so that, they talk about if you go around the Middle East and the North Africa, if you see how many, Muslims as a whole, the majority of the Muslims, good people over there, there's a percentage that adhere to this Islamo-fascism. Let's say it's 10%. So what are there, like 1.8 billion? So let's say there's 180 million people that adhere to Islamo-fascism. How many have come into this country? Let's say there's 100,000, let's say 200,000, 300,000. I don't know how many have come over. 10% of them, right? So if we were talking about the million, so let's say there's 10, 15, 20 million that have come illegally, just as a law of averages, let's say 10% of them adhere to this communist radical ideology that are all military age. We see how they're marching in the streets in Europe, in Germany. There was something just happened in France. They're marching in the streets. 10% of them, 10% of the population that live in those countries will adhere to this militant ideology. 10%. So let's say you have 1 million, 100,000, 10,000. How many military age men do you need in the country to cause chaos? to sow
Yeah.
chaos in your
Wow.
country. France, the streets of France, Germany. We just saw there was a march and a police officer. They were trying to arrest the bad actor, and the one police officer got stabbed in the neck, and then the two guys got shot. They shot them. You know, but we see them marching in France. We see how police officers are being treated over in the UK. No respect, like zero respect. But these people are marching in the streets, chanting for Sharia law, chanting violently chanting for Sharia law. We saw them marching, fists in the air, shouting for Sharia law in the streets of Germany. At some point when the tide flips, and this is the narrative, and this is why we need to change course drastically come January 2025, November 5th, we're going to see a drastic change of course to put all of those people on notice. And it's not going to be easy, right? Because now the reality is revealed itself in this country, what they're believing out. They're trying to undermine our country, undermine our freedoms, undermine our constitution, undermine our opportunity to create wealth. They don't like it. Right. They're doing everything that they did in Venezuela to undermine the country. Venezuela used to be an independent leader in South America, meaning they were a major exporter of food, of lots of things. They were self-sufficient. They were wealthy. Now look at them. Right now, they're talking about, oh, people are coming here from Venezuela. No, criminals are coming here from Venezuela and some of the other countries. They fled into one of the reasons they said, oh, well, they can come into this country. Look how many Venezuelans fled into Colombia. They fled into Colombia because Barack Obama had an opportunity to say that the election was corrupted and they could have changed the course of Venezuela. Instead, they let it get corrupted to where it is today. What did they do? They attacked grocery stores and accused the grocery chains of gouging the people. That's why grocery prices were so high in Venezuela. They went after the wealthy and said the wealthy were trying to target the poor. And they tried to take as much as they could away from the wealthy, to the point where in Venezuela they took poor housing and said, you can live in the wealthy areas too. And they nationalized golf courses and parks, and they built tenement housing in the wealthier neighborhoods, and they undermined security in the wealthier neighborhoods. They undermined everything, and the whole system imploded on itself. And it became extremely unsafe.
Socialism.
The exact same narrative, socialism, communism, the same narrative they're trying to employ here in the US. And you see it in California. Why are there so many homeless people all over the streets in California, and the increase in drug use and all of that? It's because they're using the exact same tactics, and they're trying to implode civilization in California. Exactly why the wealthy are fleeing those states and coming to states like Florida or Texas, and fleeing New York, because of how they've undermined civilization as a whole in those states by employing socialism and this is the battle. And so if you have socialist, communist, leftist rhetoric in bed with the Islamo-fascists, it's an extremely dangerous combination. And that's what's happened. We see it in the streets. We saw them on college campuses. They're on college campuses infesting the minds of our young people. Infesting. We're at a point potentially of no return, but we do have a point of return because we're changing course and people are waking up. Thank God.
Well, Jeff, the supreme leader of Iran came out and praised the students on universities. I mean, this should be your first tip off that what's going on is not really working, right? I mean, and the whole idea of like, Sharia law is not compatible with Western lifestyle. It's not. I mean, it's a whole different thing. I mean, it's a whole different level of control. And like I say, like, having Muslim friends that do not live this way, are true to their faith. And this is the funny thing about it is like, no, they're great human beings. But again, they have to be soiled by these percentage. And we have the same in the US. Listen, the US is overwhelmingly more than 50%, probably 60% plus now, maybe 65. That is a little bit more conservative. They want to raise a family. They're too busy working to really kind of pay attention to what's going on in politics, but people are waking up. And it's like, why should that small sector spoil the broth for everybody? It just destroys everything. And it's like, if I go to another country, the reason I go to France is I want to hear French, right? I was just in Montreal. I love Montreal, man. I love hearing French. I love the culture. I try to speak it if I can. I just love, the food up there is phenomenal. And this is what I want to visit Montreal and the culture because it's Montreal, because it has a history. I want to go to France because I want to have French food, right? But if you're going to move in from someplace else and you don't respect the culture you're going to, what's the point? If we don't lose language, culture, and borders, we've lost it all. Everything. Language, culture, to borders defines it. If you don't lock your house at night, well, everybody does. You lock your doors, you put an alarm on, and guess what? You're armed in case something does go south. You're not going to have time to call the police. Guess what happens? Oh, but no, leave the borders wide open. Do you ever notice the people like Pelosi in San Francisco have these tall fences?
Lots of walls.
Biden has a lot of big wall. The walls don't work. They're racist. They're horrible, but they all have them, right? It's always what's good for you, good for thee, not for we, right? That's the whole sort of the thing. So I think we're waking up universally, worldwide. Everyone's tired of it. And, thank God for that C-19 because it accelerated and really told everyone's true intentions. Look what happened in New Zealand. Look what happened in Australia. Making camps for people. This was insane. You're like I always said when I would, people like, George Orwell, 1984. When I was younger, I thought, like, come on, this is so preposterous. And you know what? It was very telling. George Orwell, if you watch it's great to watch any interviews. There's a couple interviews with him where he talks about it, and you almost think like even at the time, like he's some kind of crazy person, but he was able to see human nature, where it was devolving. He could see it back then. We think this is all new. But go back to the founding of the country when the founding fathers wrote anonymously, kind of like how people are on Twitter and X and these other ones anonymously writing because it endangered them. And one of the things, who were felons? All the felons, the people who signed the Declaration of Independence. Every one of them was a felon back in the eyes of the British Empire. Every single one of them. They either had their farms burned. Many of them died. They were strung up. Their lives didn't go well for them. Most of them ended poorly, or their families got killed. Farms burned down. You know what ended up happening? They stood up for freedom. And this is what's happening. People are willing to fight for the freedom. They're sick and tired of being taken advantage of. They're sick and tired of why the government's going to control them. And this is really, Jeff, what people are really nervous about overall. And this is why you have this whole idea of the threat of decentralization. Decentralization, we don't need you anymore. Power truly goes back to the people. We don't need you as a representative of me. We don't need you going to the capital of the country and making a shit ton of money, right? And coming out. Exactly it. Now, you look at that. You look at the last three presidents. When they went into office, I think when Clinton went in, he was worth like $400,000. When he got out of office, tens and tens of millions of dollars. The same with Bush. Went in there, relatively successful. Then he came out tens of millions. Same with Obama. Obama was, he was worth $1 million maybe. Came out, he's worth 40, 60, 80 million. He's got a house in Hawaii. He's got a house in Martha's Vineyard, right? On the water because climate change. Remember that, folks. They built their houses on the water. So
on the water.
Balloons, baby.
Yeah, your balloons. You got balloons on the water. So here's what happened. So like Barack Obama, 2006. His net worth was $799,000. 2007, it was 1.3 million. Around the time when he first started running for president, he got a book deal for about $1 million. Right. And so that kind of changed the narrative a little bit. Today, he obviously, sitting as president about 400,000. Their net worth today is what, maybe 11 million, 12 million, 20 million,
50 million. Well,
40, 50 million.
Now Trump was worth $4 billion. When he got out of office, he was worth under $3 billion. Why? Because it damaged the crap out of his brand, and he's still running again. Why? Because he wants the future for his kids, cares about his country. He always has. The good thing about Trump is he was a successful businessman. You can go back to interviews from 30 years ago where he's saying the same damn thing, talking about China and their currency, how they manipulated it. He's talking about Japan. He's talking all the things he's talking about. 20, 30 years worth of material for. Meanwhile, 30 years of material on Joe Biden. He was probably the crime bill where he put a large, horrible number of African Americans in jail for really ridiculous stuff. Okay, and so this is the man. But don't forget who the racist is. It's got to be Trump, right?
Of course. Never was before. embraced by everybody in Hollywood, you know, before that. And then all of a sudden he comes out, runs as a Republican. They all turn against him. But all those politicians were always at his door, you know, looking for handouts also. The other, you know, misnomer is that our founding fathers, you know, they keep referring to them as old, right? That's the whole narrative, is that these old white guys that you know, were the founding fathers. James Monroe was 18 years old. Aaron Burr was 20 years old. Alexander Hamilton was 21. James Madison was 25. You know, you had Thomas Jefferson was 33. John Adams, 40. Paul Revere, 41. And George Washington at the time was 44 years old. You imagine James Monroe, 18. And here they are. I mean, it's amazing to me. You take an 18, 20, or 21 year old today, are they going to have the foresight to put this type of document together and to fight? You know,
only if it's on TikTok, Jeff.
Yeah.
So look at this right here. Joe Buddy says this. He says, so Democrats have to decide: do they hate Trump more than they love crypto? I believe the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yes to all the above.
Do they hate Trump more than they love the country?
Australia turns into a communist country, and even worse with the digital ID. Yeah. So, and also too, I was shocked that well, they weren't the only one that enacted a digital ID. That digital ID is just, I mean, that's almost worse than the CBDC. They track everything, man. Help, I'm not alone. Oh my gosh, we have more. Wait, we have 2 viewers over there? What's going on, Jeff?
There were 2. Now there's only 1.
Oh no, somebody dropped off. No, you're alone.
You're still by yourself.
You're still by yourself. You're still
sitting in the room all by yourself in the Twitch room.
Alex Yee, yeah, Jeff, 1000% right, my man. Universities are a problem for youth, future of youth, and all the kids in universities, and become activists and pro everything. Yeah, that's true. But you know what? There's a tide turning. I saw this this video, and it was all these people coming on screen, and like I, you know, they all graduated. Like, I graduated with a study and blah 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 blah, and it was all these things. I'm like, there's no room for you in the world. There's no job you can get with that kind of a major. Like, it was all leftist, bizarro sort of titles. I'm like, you know, so you see this. The whole thing about DEI was supposed to, you know, the idea was diversity, equity, inclusion, and all it did was exclude. Right? It became an exclude thing. And you see like top universities for medical colleges, which are now have lowered their standards because they want to be more diverse. Well, what does that mean for the public? That you're going to get somebody who, like, the outcomes are going to be horrible. So, and somebody brought up the idea. It's like, imagine an NBA team that really deployed DEI, right? So you want more white guys on the team. You want some Hispanics on the team. You want women on the team. You get the best people who are you get the very best that you can get to make your team. And so why would you? And the same with a corporation, the same with a company, the same with the government. You find the best people who can do the best job. And if you start making it about skin color, then you're missing the whole entire point. It's like, you know, famously, you know, Mark Cuban came out and said, you know, he was all in on the DEI and this and that. But okay, that's great, but you don't run your whole company like that. Because if you did, you have a bunch of people on your basketball team. They're going to the finals. They're going to the finals. Just won the Western, you know, the conference. So to me, you get the very best you can get. Okay. I mean, I've always been of the opinion sometimes they put a white guy on a team just because they feel like they have a white guy on a team, and they're not that good of basketball players. I hate to tell you, but it's like, it's just the way it is. But you put the very best you can, and you don't. Why do we make everything about, you know, race and skin color? Nobody cares, man. It's like what we care about. And this is they did a test, Jeff. They did a test. They had a black man, African American man. They brought him to a Trump thing, and they said, "Hey, I'm going to walk you over here, and you know, how are you going to feel about that?" He goes, "I think I'm going to be vilified, and this and that." And they welcomed him with open arms. He said, "Hey, you're with us. You're fine." He goes, "Am I going to be okay if I go in there?" And they said, "You're with us." You know, they put his arms around him. Yep, you come on in. Hey, great. And then she said, "Now let's go do the same thing. You bring me over to that protest group over there." Yeah. Did you see that?
I saw that.
You bring me to the protest group over there, and they were yelling obscenities to her. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to bring her in. You know, she's a Trump supporter, blah, blah, blah." And they started yelling obscenities at her, calling her the worst possible names, going up to her, hitting her, and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, sometimes, you think about these narratives. Why is there so much violence, right? If you don't, why can't we get back to ideas? Why can't we get back to a country and a world that believes on ideas? Let's debate the ideas. And there's never any ideas when it's all about control. That's like me
not
think, you do,
Right. And the ones in the streets don't think. They never have. That's the whole point. And that's where when you bring someone over to a Republican rally, you put some of the Republicans on the street corner waving flags, and you walk over and start talking. They're like, "Hey, come hang out with us. That's awesome. Doesn't care who you are." You go to these leftists that are on the corner shouting whatever they're shouting, you're not going to be safe, because of what you just said. And I think it's been proven time over time over time, that's just how it is. They don't think, they just embrace. Just like, again, I'll go back to these students that are out there supporting Hamas or supporting Hezbollah, and they're waving the flags of terrorist organizations and fully embracing, with their narrative, fully embracing their narrative that has been proven, false. But yet they, these university students that are at Ivy League schools, I think they should immediately be kicked out of school. I don't even think there should have been hesitation. Have them punished and show them what happens in society when you embrace stupid things. When you're going to come out and immediately embrace a terrorist organization without even researching it, right? You want to come out and protest. You're at Harvard or Yale, and you don't even do a bit of research on the entire history of the event, and you immediately come out with false facts. That's it. You know what? You're not getting a degree here. You're done. You're kicked out of school because you've proven that everything that you've studied in this school, you can't even do one little bit of research. So if you can't do research, what's the point of the degree? What's the point of you getting a job after the fact? It is so mind-numbing. But this has been going on for years and years. I can remember running into a protest in Chicago. I was in Chicago for some other event, and we're just walking around the streets, and there was some protest. Same type of situation, but years ago. There's always these Autobots that come out to the streets. There was an American guy protesting in support of whatever the relevant cause was of Hamas cause at the time. It wasn't, and so he's out there protesting, and I went to talk to him. Back then, at least you could have a little bit of discourse with him. And I said, "Hey, here's what I'm going to do for you. And I think this will be the most educational, because you obviously don't know the facts. You're here out in a street corner. That's great. You want to whatever. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to buy you a one-way ticket. I'm going to have you go straight to Gaza, or you can go straight to the West Bank, wherever you want to go. Go spend time over there, then come back and tell me, and let's have a conversation." And they immediately shut up. They shut down because they never will have the facts, and it's just amazing to me. But now you're seeing on these college campuses, it's such a narrative, but it's not just that. It's, like you said before, how fast people are willing to take the injection in their arm, how fast this government was to force our military, forcing them to take the injection, how fast many of the hospitals were at immediately, undermining true treatment for the C19 when there was already research and evidence to show that there was a certain treatment protocol, but yet they disparaged those doctors, and the government and the media and the hospital leadership disparaged the doctors. And that's why, going back to that point, the one political talking head on YouTube had said, come out and said, most people think that they would be Schindler and would be out there saving, but that's not true. And it's been proven again. Canada, the majority of the people were outing their neighbors. Australia flipped the narrative. They're willing to put people in camps. I mean, crazy stuff shows you that, that society, is a little bit demented, and you have to be very cautious, which is why in this country, we have a constitution that is unique from any other constitution in the world. And there's two critical amendments. There's a lot of others within the constitution, but two that are critical, number 1 and number 2. One wouldn't exist without two. And they knew that. And the leftist party is trying to undermine not just the First Amendment, but they're doing everything in their power to undermine the Second Amendment for a purpose. And that's everything we need to know. You see the crazies in the street, and they want to take away your Second Amendment. Think about how unsafe this country will be. And Charlie Kirk had brought up a really solid point where they questioned him on it, and he said, "Look, I know that there's going to be deaths, gun deaths, but that is the price you have to pay for freedom, and you have to have the First and Second Amendment." He said, just like, there's car deaths, people have accidents every single day, but yet I still support the fact that there's cars in this country. Two different narratives, but there's gun deaths and there's lots of car deaths, lots of accidents, but you don't see the same people that talk about gun deaths talking about car deaths. How many people die because of people driving stupid, but it happens every single day. So
Laurel Mystic says, who do you think will ultimately clean up the crypto space in the end, the Senate or the Treasury?
Wow.
It'll be Congress. I think the Treasury is going to go away in some form. I actually think the Federal Reserve is going away. I believe that if you follow Trump and you listen to what he says and how he's telegraphed stuff, you look at whose portrait he had in the Oval Office. Andrew Jackson was somebody who got rid of the second iteration of federal type of, a central bank. Central banks, I think, are the most evil things going. You can say CBDCs, but the really bad part of a central bank is the enslavement because of the debt. Some third party loans a country money. It's not a sovereign currency. Let's get back to sovereign currencies. And I think that Trump is going to do that. I think he's absolutely going to crush the Fed. The Federal Reserve, the two tenets it's supposed to look out for is inflation and jobs. It's failed miserably. It's shocking that this Federal Reserve has lasted this long, this central bank, but it's, why can't you go back to 1970? Well, prices go up over time. Well, do they? Don't forget that, inflation it's not a stable thing. It's not like it was 9% and now it's 3%. Oh, good, it's 3%. Well, yeah, prices are rising at 3% instead of 9%, but they don't come down. They stay up there, right? And they continue to rise, and you're adding to it. So since 1970s, the inflation is incredible. And then people were excited about it because they're like, oh my gosh, my house is worth so much money now. Oh my gosh, I'm making more at my job. Yeah, to compensate. But unfortunately, once they took the gold backing out of it, that was the only thing really kind of holding it together, because then you could print money endlessly and then anybody could. And now, so it means nothing anymore. So at least I believe in a project, a digital asset that's solving a problem. But listen, if Trump goes and does what I think he's going to do and get rid of the central bank, all central banks will fall around the world. It'd be the greatest thing that happened to civilization, to modern civilization, aside from that. And they're going to fight it tooth and nail because a lot of people get their hands on that. You don't even know the people that get rich off the central banks, man. But the central banks are evil. The central bank of Europe, you've got Christine Lagarde running that. It's an absolute, and people are okay. Oh, well, I guess it's a central bank. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is like the worst thing that's happened to the planet. We've got to get rid of these central banks, man. And I hope Trump is the guy to do it. Who knows?
That's right.
We'll see.
More Monkey said, more people have died waiting for XRP to moon, Jeff, and I've got one foot in the grave.
Pretty much, yeah. The runway's running out.
The runway's running out, that's for sure. Crypto Whelp was saying that this guy had posted, I saw that kind of fly by, who came into the Twitch space. It scared the living daylights out of me. All of a sudden, Crypto Whelp's always the only one in Twitch, and all of a sudden someone posts something. I'll be like, what the?
What the heck? Anyway, guys, we ran super long today, an hour 40, way longer than there's a lot to chat about. We had my God, it was like a therapy session here today, Jeff. But thank you guys for hanging in there with us. I don't think anybody will watch the full thing, but hey, one viewer, if you made it this far on the rewatch, you're awesome. And thank you to
total of 285 watching us too right now. We got Twitter, we got X, 85 over on the chain, got 44 on YouTube, which is where YouTube's been crushing us. You've got 132 on yours, and I've got the small following, 24. Total of 286.
You need to post more
on Twitch.
I posted a little too much the past day. I went scorched earth. If you look at my feed the last 2 days, I went nuts. I went crazy. I'm tired of censoring myself. I'm not censoring myself anymore. If you like it, cool. If you disagree with me, cool. Let's have a conversation about it. But I'm done censoring. And if I'm wrong, then I'll come back and say, hey, I made a mistake. I was wrong. Or, I changed my view on that. It's like, who's the guy that famously, the Bitcoin guy that always says, hold your views loosely? What was that one? Strong. I'm trying to think what his name is, but he always talks about, hang on. I have a strong opinion and hold them loosely, meaning he's open to change. Right. Who says that?
Yeah. Yeah, who says that?
Phenomenal dude.
Talking about
YouTuber, phenomenal guy. But he says, I hold strong views. I hold loosely, meaning that he's open to changing his mind on stuff and getting enough facts on it. I think everybody should be. And certainly, we've all changed over time, and we might have changed our beliefs or our thought systems. And I'm always open to, new information and finding out. I mean, I do have strong opinions held loosely, or I should say, what is this, 5 to 10 years early in crypto? It's early, but I think what will happen is regulations will change that. So when there's a clear road, when there is an open thing, it can just fire off. And if things go well, I think 2025 actually could be a magical year. But this is what I love about this digital asset community, where they're freedom fighters, freedom lovers. When we went to Australia, all we met were people who could have been the founders of a brand new country, because they were that passionate about it. Their mindset, everything that they believed in, their whole scope of thought was just incredibly encouraging. And they said, don't believe all the bullshit media you hear about, Australia, New Zealand. Don't believe any of that stuff, because again, it's the fringe bit of it that you hear about. They're running the government, have sort of the stronghold. And a lot of times I feel like, what happened in Venezuela, they had the same machines that we had over here in our elections. And how does somebody who's like a Lindsey Graham, who's a Republican, a horrible Republican, who's been there for everyone? You got Mitch McConnell, another dope, just complete moron, Rhino.
They do nothing.
They do nothing. They're morons. They're idiots. I mean, they're worse than Democrats, honestly. And people say, "Oh, you just hate Democrats." No, man, I can pick all the Republicans out for you. It's like half the party. Again, at least the Democrats support each other. At least the Democrats are unified in a mission and a vision. Not the Republicans. They're scammy. They're feckless losers, most of them. So no, it's I believe in. I'm a conservative, constitutional conservative. Believe in the Constitution strongly, and that I believe in freedom. But I don't see that being parroted in the Republican Party. Even under Trump, I saw Trump hire a lot of rhinos. I saw him get a lot of bad advice. I saw him do.
He got lots of bad advice. He's
endorsing the wrong candidate, not the freedom fighting candidate. He's endorsing the rhinos. So I've had a lot of problems with Trump in that regard, where he's off base on a lot of it. You want some advisors? Right here, bud. We'll give you some advice. Go ahead, hire us. We'll steer you right.
I think this time around, he's going to surround himself with the right people, because there's a lot.
I hope so, Jeff, because he made a lot of bad choices last time around.
But I think coming into it, he kind of trusted people, and had faith that they were going to do the right thing.
These people,
look what happened.
Yeah, but come on, you're trusting the wrong kind of people. The people that would, you get a guy like Alan West in your cabinet. That's a guy you can trust. You get a guy.
That'd be amazing. I want to see Alan West do something.
You get a guy like Byron Donalds. You trust a guy like that. You trust a guy like Matt Gaetz. It's funny how they hail from Florida, but
all Florida.
You're right. So, the free state of Florida. So you really wonder how. There are some good people, man. There are some good people fighting the good fight. Yeah, some are a little bit on the crazy side, but that's okay. It's like you want to respect people's freedom, and that's why I really hope that Byron Donalds. I think he would be just an absolute phenomenal choice. I don't know, Vivek. Awesome. If he announced it was Vivek, I'd be okay with that too. I mean, I'd be okay with that. I just think that long term, it's going to be the other guy. So
yeah.
But anyway, we got to get out of here. We've been going forever. We got to get out of here.
He said house prices will never go down until we have either a complete collapse of the dollar or building increases supply, which isn't likely. Yeah, housing prices. You also have a devaluation of the currency. So the currency value has dropped, right? And your dollar just doesn't go as far. Hence, the price of everything's going up, skyrocketing. Right. And then depending on where you are with housing, some of it's supply and demand. Some of it is just crazy.
Drinking a beer, it's a little bit early, isn't it? Let's drink it.
It's not early over there.
That's right, 5 o'clock somewhere. So
he's
anyway, guys. Yeah, that's right. The Netherlands. All right, man.
It's already beer time. It's beer 30 over there.
Anyway, we'll talk more about this tomorrow. 1:45. We've truly set a new standard in going over, Jeff.
We did.
All right.
And everyone's dropping like flies off of YouTube. They're like, this is too long. Time to leave.
Like, screw this. Guys are just
screw these guys
at this point. Anyway, that's it. We're out here, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. It'll be an hour show. See you on the next one. Chip and Jeff.
Out. Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.